welcome to Furious Driving. And you join me today in something a little unusual, a car we didn't get here in the UK again. This is a 1985 Citroën Acadiane, an Acadiane, basically a Dyanne van, a car that was only made in left-hand drive, and so only a select few oddballs and weirdos, people like us basically, have chosen to import these things. Crikey, it leans like a Citroën. And I mean that as a compliment. Before we get going, do please check out back catalogue of reviews of interesting, unusual and different classic, retro and modern cars here on the channel. And of course, click the links from our sponsors, my sponsors, and the shop, furiousdriving.co.uk. Now on with this review. Now, what is an Acadiane, I hear you ask? Well, basically, it's a light commercial version of the Citroën Dyanne, built from 1977 until 1987. 10 years, no less. So at the front, it looks very much like a Citroën Dyanne because basically it is. But behind the B-post, it's a great big box van, like a Vauxhall Corsa Combo or something. And it took the place of the Citroën 2CV van, which had existed before it, and in time it was replaced by the C15 van itself. And it's quite windy today, might not look it, it's surprisingly breezy, and it really does pick up a lot of the side wind on that big van back. Now you might be wondering what the word Acadienne actually means. It means idyllically rustic or a rural ideal. And seeing as a lot of these things were sold to French farmers, that's kind of accurate. However, it's more of a play on words because AK was a designation that Citroën gave to the light commercials, and this is a Dyanne, so the AK Dyanne apparently is where it got its name from. Although its internal code name, its Nummer Locateur, the code name for it inside the factory, was the AYCD. Now fundamentally it's a slightly upgraded Citroën Dyanne underneath, designed to take 500 kilos of stuff in the back. So if you're a small business, a farmer, this is ideal. And apparently the French post office used them in droves. But they also found another life, particularly with the Germans who loved this kind of thing. As a mini camper. And I'm not sure if this translation is 100% accurate, but apparently it's called the travel duck. Maybe the long nose is like a beak kind of a thing. Seems to be a bit of a pattern of reviews of cars with strange animal names after the after the FJ55 last week, the Iron Pig. Now these were pretty popular. They sold 253,000 of them across Europe, not including the UK, as it wasn't right-hand drive, as I mentioned. All of them built Vigo in Spain, where Citroën had a manufacturing plant. I love the way this thing just feels like it's about to fall over at any moment. But because it's an old Citroën, you just know it's going to be absolutely fine. The long travel suspension is just ludicrous and brilliant. The owner and his friend who are road tripping this thing at the moment did say they stood at the back bumper and they tried to lift it as high as they could, and they got it kind of waist tight, but the wheels were still on the ground. And I will introduce you to them before the end of the video. There are a couple of guys who've flown over from Detroit and they are road tripping this English registered left-hand drive French van all the way across Europe to basically China. Now it's a 4-speed manual gearbox. I'll go back to the car again for a second. Although you can really treat fourth as an overdrive. I would normally go into fourth gear on this particular hill. It's not a steep incline at the moment, but I feel I would begin to lose momentum if I were to. It doesn't have much power, but it's only a light vehicle, 680 kilograms empty, so it's not got to pull a lot of weight. Basically filling it to the brim effectively doubles the weight of the thing. Yeah, downhill we can use fourth. You treat every corner like a rally stage, expecting to go in through a Scandinavian flick, and you generally come out the right way up with this thing. The steering is very, very low geared indeed, which is good because there's no power steering. The brakes, I'm amazed how good they are, because those disc brakes on the front make such a massive difference to the stopping power of this thing. It's a very tall cabin. The van appendages do mean that it will do mean you've got a ton of headroom. I can wear a stovepipe hat in it, no problem. But it's surprisingly narrow. The steering wheel feels quite tight on my knees, and there's nowhere for my left elbow. Ideally I'd have it out the window, but then you wouldn't hear a word I was saying. It feels more cramped than a Land Rover Defender, the real type, and that's saying something. So let's take a look around the outside of the Acadiane. Isn't it a pretty little thing? Weird, but nice. So it's kind of a reverse mullet, because it's all fun at the front, work at the back, but you can look and see exactly where the car carries onto and then abruptly stops with a great big crate on the back of the thing. So there are a few small changes between the regular Dyanne car and the Acadiane, which is obviously based on it. Underneath, which you can't see, this has got disc brakes on the front. It's got a slightly longer chassis. It's about 135 millimeters between the wheels longer between the truck and the car. And very, very clever suspension, because the back of this thing can take a maximum of about 500 kilos, the authorised payload 435 kilograms, and it's currently self-clearancing the back wheels with a lot of weight in the back there. But the brakes are incredibly clever. They've got an automatic bias balancing valve, so as more weight goes into the back of the van, it adds more strength and more bite to the rear brakes, so you don't have the car bouncing and locking the wheels up when it's empty on a humpback bridge, but also don't go piling into traffic when it's heavy. Very clever stuff. Also, you get these big towing mirrors on the van, because otherwise you'd only have a great view of this box section. Now, the van was available in two different interior body styles. First of all, you always get two front seats. Those are quite useful, especially the one behind the steering wheel. Behind that, you've got the option of either having nothing or windows and removable back seats. Very clever. And you have little lockers on the other side. So underneath the rather expansive bonnet, you'll find a fairly diminutive engine. It's 602 cc's of glory and power. 31 horsepower of power, in fact, and 41.2 newton meters of torque. And when you're dealing with 41 newton meters of torque, that 0.2 really, really matters. Top speed is a dizzying 64 miles an hour, which is probably quite fast enough, although it is about 10 miles an hour slower than the Dyanne car version, because aerodynamically this is something of a small house. As you look around here, you will notice it has, like two CVs before, it's got inboard front disc brakes, and it's got parallel swing arms with horizontal springs and shocks. Okay, so let's jump inside the Acadiane and have a quick look around at what we can see. So first of all, big upgrade on the Dyanne, because as well as a door card, we've got a door pocket, which they didn't get on the car. Got armrest, cranky windows, little lever to get in and out if you really want to. Underfloor, we have got rubber matting because it's a practical commercial vehicle, and we've got two separate seats, which I'm sure are very supportive. I hope they are for the next 3 months for the owner. Stepping inside, we've got quite an interesting dashboard area. So, very, very poor effort on the T-shelf front, because you're not going to get a mug of anything on here, and it's surprisingly cramped inside. Our T-shelf is basically made of vents with the most, wow, elephantine huge effort. Wow, it's like a chomper. You can eat things. If you get bored in traffic, you just go nom, nom, nom. That would see me through for ages. No traffic would be an issue ever again. Same again on the passenger side, so you can have little nom-offs. That sounds so weird. I'm never going to say that again. A couple of little buttons up top. A little switch. Okay, that's the washers going clear of the roof. Sorry, I've just soaked the owner, who was actually stood quite a long way from the vehicle. Little ashtray because French. most important thing in the car in France. On the right hand side we've got a lower T-shelf area, and in the centre below the dashboard, lurking well below the dashboard and completely out of sight, we've got our speedometer, which is in kph and going up to about 140 kilometers per hour, which is frankly optimistic. We've got more T-shelf area on the left. We've got controls on the left and the right. This is not how you use this stalk here for the lights. That's actually how you use the gear shifter. Manual umbrella type gear shifter here. We reverse over here, and a dog leg first. That's curious. Manual choke because 1985. Umbrella handbrake because French. And the pedals are somewhere over with the passenger. Headroom wise, it's ridiculously good. Because it's a van, it steps up to give a bit of aerodynamics in front of the big box section. And let's show you this big box section in the back because it's huge. How could we possibly forget the horn test? Oh, that is so cute. That is a pup that is going to take itself all the way around the world, 10,000 miles, with a smile on its face and on the face of everyone who sees it. So basically it's somewhere between an ice cream van, a train and a Calcutta taxi cab. But it certainly gets people's attention. Oh, I've just noticed, looking at the horn part, we've got our hat and shoe area down here, apparently. Hat and shoe to be found underneath the dashboard. Okay, rather boringly, this just tells you whether it's adjusting to feet or to face, but I like to think of it as hat and shoe storage underneath there. Now, typical French vintage, classic, retro, whatever you want to call it, old van, it's got corrugated sides like an H van serving you a coffee at literally any retro hipster event. This is because it means you can have one pressed panel and makes it strong and not vibrate and not wobble and not boom so much. And it's a very clever, cheap way of making something stronger. Inside the back of this thing, if I turn the handle the right way, it's got barn doors. There we go. That is rudimentary. So we've got barn doors, single skin, pane of glass, but these are 1 metre wide and designed to take a Euro pallet, which I thought was way too modern for this, but turns out Euro pallets, a standard designation of pallet used for shipping people, goes back to 1961, so it's actually perfectly in tune and in time for this little commercial vehicle. So your forklift truck can come up here, use this big metal bar of a bumper to crash into as it loads in, offload your pallet of cheese, and I'll be on their way. Inside, lots more headroom, but only a single unlined skin of metal, and that's surprisingly boomy, despite the corrugations. And now let's quickly meet the guys who are going to drive this thing 10,000 miles over the next couple of months.
All right, my name is Jeff. Live outside of Detroit, Madison Heights, and I'm helping this crazy fool here take this part of the way through the journey. We're going from here in the UK to Prague, where I leave him behind and he picks up a new co-driver.
My name is Leo. I am from Redford, Michigan, outside Detroit, and I'm going to be driving this Citroën Acadiane on the Mongol Rally, which is from here to Kazakhstan. But then I'm not stopping there. I'm going onwards to Mongolia and then China, and then from there taking a ferry and ending up in Japan.
So, how long have you owned this vehicle for?
So theoretically, I've owned the car for about 3 years now, but the world's been kind of a mess in the meantime, and it hasn't really gotten that much better, to be honest.
So how did you even find it? You live in America, this car was here in the UK.
Actually, the car was in France, I guess. I had been thinking about what to bring on Mongol Rally, and originally I was going to bring one of those Japanese microvans, but I figured if it got damaged in like Uzbekistan, that's not really going to work because I can't get parts for it, it's going to be a mess. So I went, what is the simplest car I can bring? And I thought about kind of this sort of thing, and I contacted a man in Warminster about it, and he said, I have a couple of cars, We'll talk about pricing and we'll talk about the cars and we'll figure out what you need.
And he found it for you, and so he's holding it, waiting. First time you saw this car, which you've owned for 3 years, was about 4 days ago.
Yes, it was the afternoon of the 4th.
And today's now the 8th. So yeah, exactly 4 days ago.
Yep.
Was it everything you hoped it would be?
I'd say so. I mean, it's a little rough around the edges, but
But you can drive it 10,000 miles through a desert, so you don't really want a pristine example.
yeah,
You just want one that works.
exactly. And this thing works really well.
It does. It drives brilliantly. I've loved driving it. So fantastic. Well, I'm going to wish you the best luck in the world getting across Europe and across the rest of the world. And if people want to see your adventures, what's your social media and stuff to find you on?
So I haven't actually been posting about this yet. I have my Instagram and my Facebook page that I'm posting on from a previous trip that I did. And so it's The Volga Flows Westward.
The Volga, as in the river.
As in the river, but in my case, I was planning to, it kind of didn't work out, but driving my Volga estate from Moscow to London, so it was going west.
So there we go. So the Volga is in the car, not the river.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll post that little link in the description down below. So yeah, so thank you and good luck. I'll
Thanks.
get back to driving this thing.
Thanks.
It's not too loud, despite the fact it's only got a very short exhaust with quite a small silencer on it. And the owners tell me on the motorway it's not too boomy either. You can chat at a regular volume. And it is so comfortable. That typically French Citroën and gliding over the bumps. This is yet another vehicle you could drive over a ploughed field if you wanted to. Now normally from this point I would take it back down the dual carriageway, but I'm going to take the B roads again. Feels more at home for this kind of thing. And it's quite a steep hill back to the dual carriageway as well. Heck, I'm going to take you down a C road. Yep. We are taking a bumpy one-track road, which I think probably ideal for this vehicle. I don't really want to bin this car before they get out of the first country with it. My new American friends have had a couple of days in the UK to get used to this thing and do a bit of sightseeing. They'll be in France tomorrow and Prague to start the rally within a couple of days. They can have a great time with this thing. I do love a road trip. There's nothing like getting out in a fun car with a friend and just exploring somewhere different you've never been before. So, thank you for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this ride out in this fantastic little Citroën Acadiane. I've loved this. I've never driven one of these before, and it's such a different experience, although similar to a 2CV. I feel like a grown-up 2CV. And you can kind of forget you've got the big box on the back after a few minutes. Lots of fun. A weird sidebar to this car. It's got normal left-hand indicators, but it feels like it should have right-hand indicators for some reason. It should also definitely have old-fashioned black French number plates on it.